Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday, from Monday to Sunday, it's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special edition of Focus on Liberia. We call Between the Headlines. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. 45 years ago today, something happened in Liberia. There was a military coup led by then Master Sergeant Samuel Canyon Doe. It says 17 enlisted men toppled the Liberian government, killing President Turbot and other government officials. Days after, there was also a summary execution of 13 government officials. Since then, the issue of 1980 continued to be discussed. At some point, people will ask, have 1980 not happened, what the country will be looking like? So 1980 will never get out of our history, especially when those things that were supposedly wrong with the country for which the coup was staged continue to visit us. Today, we're going to talk about April 12, 1980, why it happened, what have we learned from it, and what is the way forward. Joining me to discuss this on this day, the 45th anniversary of this unfortunate event, I have Mr. Michael Asumana Patmo, who is also a panelist here on Point, Focus on Liberia. Welcome, Ansu.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dennis. Even though it's such a Memorial Day, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here with this distinguished group, and hopefully we can have a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me also welcome Mr. J. Victor Nambwe. Is FOL political analyst, and he say in the course of the people, what happened? Mr. Victor Nambwe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. In the cause of the people, the struggle will continue, but it is good to be here. And let me say welcome to my colleagues on set as well as our audience.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to welcome Mr. George Numbo for the very first time on Focus on Liberia. Mr. Numbo, or can I say Dr. George Numbo? That's an honorary title I'm giving you tonight. Welcome to the show.
Okay, thank you. I'm very happy to be here tonight to discuss our past, and I'm sure our past has contributed to our present and our future. So I'm very happy that Focus invited me to join the group today. Thank you.
Thank you. And in a special way, I want to offer you this bottle of water, being your first time. We say, we enjoy ourselves here. Our hearts as clear as this bottle of water. Thank you for joining and feel at home.
Thank you. I hope that I Ganta water now.
No,
Okay.
thank you. Let me also welcome uh, Mr. Morris, the perfect manager, Krumah. Welcome, Morris.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me. It's been a while, and I'm really excited about this conversation today. Hopefully, we'll get into the weeds of some of the issues that is wrong with our country, and connect them to some of the experiences we're having today. It's good to be here with all these people.
Thank you. Let me welcome Gabriel M. Tabito Carter. He's our global banking and financial expert, and also host of our finance show, FOL Marketplace. Welcome, Mr. Carter.
Then it's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Last and definitely not the least is FOL political analyst, Mr. Mohammed Sharif, a product of Waplo Institute from Kilipo. Welcome, sir.
Dennis, thank you. It's good to be here.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. If you have not already done so, please hit that share button, share the show, invite someone, and let's discuss Liberia. Focus on Liberia is by far the best in the business. What we discuss here, you can't hear it anywhere else. So welcome, share the show, invite someone to come. Somebody were streaming in Liberia, and then the person say, "Where have you guys been?" I say, "Well, that's why they say scarcity. Good things are hard to find." So I want us to first go around the room. 1980. That's 45 years ago. Somebody said, "But why should we be talking about 1980 now?" It's 45 years. If we can do some get past it, it's all our business. But let's go around the room. Let me hear from you. I know we have heard stories and we have all different positions. But why do you think 1980 happened? And let us be brief. We are minute. The maximum time we can talk is 2 minutes, please. Let me start with the, the one with the bend of history, Mr. Sharif. Mr. Sharif, why did 1980 happen? And I'm talking about April 12, 1980.
Thank you, Dennis. It's hard to describe this in 2 minutes, so I guess I'll try my best to be respectful of the guidelines, and so that being said, you have to look at, if you look at 1980, you have to look at the historical antecedent to 1980. You have to look at the decades of the 1970s, the 60s, the 50s, the 1920s, and pre-colonial Liberia. Oftentimes, Liberians take abbreviated history. They take abbreviated events. Oh, Toba was a bad man, and you just stop there. Oh, Toba did this in 1979, and you just stop there. And the reason why I say this is because the vengeance, the retribution, the sheer brutality against Tolbert and his officials was because of Liberia's short memory and lack of historical knowledge of the past. And that's why this progressive president faced the brutality and the wrath of the progressive forces of the time, most of whom were bent on sheer revenge and all these different things. You have to look at you have to look at the 1960s under Topman, who did a lot of worse things in Liberia. So, for example, Tolbert took out the racialistic killers, racialistic killing that we talked about on this show. He took out the racialistic killers in 1979. And the first person to congratulate President Samuel Doe was the father of the superintendent of of Maryland County, James Anderson Sr. James Anderson was the superintendent of Maryland County, who, along with Allen Yancey Jr., were convicted and executed in 1979. So, as you can see, the forces were composed and coalesced against President Tolbert. But I felt like during that time when the racialistic killings were going on, whose children were being
Mr. Sharif, let me interject a little bit. I want us to cut to the chase. Why 1980 happened? You say it's because of revenge against Tolbert. Is that the I want you to be as brief as possible.
So okay, so yes, so if I have another opportunity, I'll just come around and probably expand if I have time. But these things are so important that you can't constrict them into short segments like these. But I will pass and give others opportunity.
Okay, Michael, why 1980? Why did 1980 happen?
Well, simply put, 1980 happened because a group of young people calling themselves progressives were not patient enough to see the change happening in Liberia. And they wanted it to happen instantaneously, and therefore 1998 occurred.
1980.
Yes.
So you're saying so it means the those that killed Turbot happened because the progressive did not want change, or are you saying suggesting that the progressive killed Turbot?
No, I'm suggesting that the progressives were not patient enough for change to occur, and so they wanted it to happen instantaneously, and so there were certain manipulations that happened that triggered April 12, 1980 to happen. Yes.
Mr. Croman, I want to get your take. Why did 1980 happen?
Thank you again, Dennis. I want to take off from where Mr. Sharif left off, but I'm taking a different route. I think part of what happened 1980 was inevitable. It would have happened regardless of who was in executive mansion. The things that happened before 1980 led to 1980 happening. So, for example, for over a century, we had one, sort of a one-party system in place where a small group of the elite, 5% of the population, ruled the country while 90% of the population sort of were denied basic stuff like land rights, opportunity to participate, political participation. So all of that sort of marginalization led to 1979 when the Rest Riot happened. And people saw the magnitude of the people's reaction. As a result of that, they sort of harnessed the opportunity for 1980 to happen. So things that happened, there were events, that led to 1980 happening. And regardless of who were in executive mansion at the time, 1980 would have still happened.
Right, and you said just a little historical correction there because it said 100 year of one party rule. There were other parties. It was actually when Todmor came on the scene, he tried to kind of monopolize the political sphere. I know that's what you
No,
meant.
I mean, no, I'm saying that the true weak
Okay.
party and the elite, the elites ruled the country for over a century. That is a historical fact. No debate about that one. The
Oh,
true weak party ruled the country for over a century.
all right. I know the historians, but let me go to Mr. J. Victor Nabe. J. Victor, why did 1980 happen?
Yes, so I agree with Morris Cromon. 1980 was inevitable. When Michael said, a group of people impatient for how long? 103 years of total domination and control, complete. I have never seen a society so dominated by another group for 103 years, just 5%. 5%. You take that in. Dominated 95% of the population on all levels, politically, socially, economically, complete dominance. We were shut out. And so to say we were impatient, we waited for way too long. I think we waited way, way too long. But to answer your question directly, yes, we were angry. We were shut out of our resources. A very, very small minority group of people were enjoying everything that belonged to all of us. And we tried to get them to understand that they needed to share. They wouldn't listen to us. They wouldn't hear us. And so we had to take it to the streets the best way we knew. And that is why
So when
1980,
you say we,
let's not mistake what happened on April 12, 1980 with the progressive movement. Those are two separate things.
right,
We
and
had
we're talking
absolutely,
April 12, 1980 here.
we had
So when you
absolutely
say we,
nothing. But the April 12 was out of sympathy to what the enlisted men saw us go through. and they took it upon themselves to do all the favor and remove the TWP hegemony.
And did you support it?
No, I did not. I did not.
Because
I did.
what I
I did.
heard you say is we were angry, we were impatient, and so it happened because all these things bubble over.
Yes.
Uh,
It had to happen, whether through the military coup or one way or the other, but the TWP government had to be shaken to its core because
Thank
they
you.
had gone, yes. So it had to happen. We did not. We had nothing to do with April 12th. We did not support it. In fact, our guys came in, if you notice, and we'll go through this. In the initial stages, they all came into the government to help, but that didn't work. And by 1981, they were all out, practically.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Nubo, who is making his debut on Focus on Labrador tonight. Mr. Nubo, that shouldn't put pressure on you. But why did 1980 happen in your view?
Well, 1980 could not be avoided. It happened because of years of suppression. It happened because of vulnerable. It happened because our people who live on subsistence farming were the only ones paying taxes. It happened because the Americans or the American Liberians went and burned books printed in Grable at Epiphany Hall. So all these suppressions, all these inhumane treatments, Toba was the one who paid for them. So I believe that's why the 1980 happened.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, uh, I was hearing somebody. Let me go to Gabriel.
Yeah, Dennis, thank you, and thank you for inviting me here. History, politics is not my thing, but I think I've swayed a lot on the economic side, so I will try to make that connection. And what I've heard from a lot of people is that it was inevitable, right? Meaning what happened in 1980 could not have been avoided. But I
Right.
beg to differ that it could have been avoided had we been cautious about those economic challenges. People were talking about, you know, we were shut out of our economic resources. I think 1980 happened because there was no economic equality. It happened because of the political divide. It happened because we failed to resolve the tribal and the social challenges within ourselves in the country, right? And what happened when you suppress people for a long time? Something always triggers it. Someone somewhere will come and trigger it and trigger them, right? So I believe it happened because of that. But contrary to that, I think it could have been avoided. Absolutely could have been avoided, right? And I will segue into something that I want to say quickly and I will shut up. The same challenges, divide, economic suppression, political divide, and economic challenges that led to those events that have dragged on for so long that nobody solved until those events happen, we are headed right back to them 22
And,
years after the
and
war.
that will be our
So
second part.
I'll leave that on you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go to Elvis, probably not born when 1980 happened. Who knows? But Elvis, why
All
did you
right.
hear? And you are an avid reader also.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jai.
Mm.
Thank you, Mr. Jai. And let me preface my statement by saying my condolences go out to the Tarver family and those 13 men who were shot on the pool. And my statement is not to trivialize their death. But I think 1980 happened mostly because of external factors rather than the domestic issues that we had in the country. And why do I say that? In the White House in the United States, there was a guy who was the vice president called George H.W. Bush, who was the former CIA director and became vice president to Ronald Reagan. He was a guy who was an avid, advocate for what they call regime change all across the world. So now you got to look on the continent of Africa what was happening in terms of coup that was happening and was taking place on the continent. So there was a lot of regime change going on the continent in Africa. And then secondly, the true Whig Party, when they had a chance to show progress to the masses, and these army guys were also listening to the progressive who were trying to conscientize the quote unquote native people. They had a chance to show progress by holding those elections, the mayoral elections in Monrovia, and they canceled it. So it almost took away the hope that there was going to be some progress and the quote unquote native people were going to have some political agency. And instead, it was taken away, the rug was pulled from under them. So I think when you couple that with, again, what everybody said, political dominance, economic dominance, and people talking about, respectfully to Mr. Palmer, they should have waited. Look, these people were already 100 years ahead of the natives. They had economic, success for generations. They had education, level through many generations. So to tell the native people who had nothing to sit and wait for another 30 or 20 years because it's going to take time, they started to, incorporate more native and send them to school, but it was a little too late. And the rumor that was going on that these guys are going to be executed, as we heard, after the president left the country, I think it accelerated, the coup to happen. And lastly, Tolbert, his mouth put him in trouble with the West. He was being defiant, as we see with many African leaders. It sounds, kind of cowardly to say, but he was being very defiant to the West. He was being very defiant to the darling of the West, Israel. So I think couple that with the international, dissatisfaction that happened with the West and the Israel comments that he made, and the domestic issue and tension that was on the ground, it was a recipe for an overthrow of the government. The death and the subsequent murder of those 13 men is unfortunate, but I think when you couple that with the international issues that he had with the West and Israel, and the domestic, thing that happened with the election not happening, or the mayoral election, the people felt tired. The people felt like the opportunity was right, and they had to
Thank,
take action. And unfortunately, those men lost their life.
thank you. Let me welcome Mr. Jimmy Eastman. He's FOL representative in the capital city. Jimmy, welcome back to the States. Quickly, why you think 1980 happened? And let me also preface that by saying that Jimmy, has been your city boy, so he was there when these things happened. Tell us, Jimmy.
Why did 1980 happen? Well, it was due to many factors, but it had come to a crescent. That is, there was a lot of agitation where people were now wanting to see a change from this True Party rule. The True Party was slow to adapt to the changes in Liberia, whereas their standard bearer, who was President Toba at the time, was allowing multi-partyism and changes to come about. This had never happened before in the previous administration. So the slowness of the True Party to adapt and the aggressiveness of the new political aspirants like the Moja, PAL, and all of those other ones came to a crescent. And finally, on April 12, 1980, I'm going to do a conspiracy here. I think it was a preemptive strike because some people felt we would have fallen to socialism at the time, and it would have been a bloodbath. So to curtail a bloodbath, because had those boys who were in jail, had they been gone to trial and had to face execution, all hell would have broke loose. So the coup happened, in my opinion, to stop the carnage and to preempt any fall to socialism. So that's what I firmly believe
Thank
why
you.
it happened.
Thank you. Let me go back to Mr. Sharif, who started it. Maybe by this time, Mr. Sharif, can you give me a concise view on why you think 1980 happened? If you can unmute.
I think Elvis was onto something there, and I believe following that thought line, there was a confluence of international and local events, as well as um, you know, unsolved grievances, historical grievances from the 1920s, from colonial, from colonial Liberia, from all these different eras where there was suppression of the native people. In Liberia. And so Tolbert became the sacrificial lamb for everybody. So for the sins of his fathers, for the sins of his grandparents, that he had to suffer this fate. It didn't have to happen this way, though. The coup change was inevitable, but it didn't have to be this violent. So for people to sit around and say we did it and it had to happen, we have to be outraged. It's this, it didn't have to be this way. It didn't have to be this mass murder. These executions and whatnot. What have we gained as a people out of those executions? Corruption has quadrupled. Everything has quadrupled. Liberia has declined over by 100 years. Where are the progressive? Bacchus Matthews was
We'll
reduced
come to that
to a
part.
beggar. Bacchus Matthews was reduced to being a beggar. Where are the progressives now? What is going on? What is wrong with us?
Thank you. So every system or every presidency, you have opposition. So to have this political disagreement is nothing new. But I want us to take some time and talk about some of those events, some of those conditions that you're talking about that happened, that precipitated the well. And I agree with Mr. Sharif that it doesn't have to be cool, right? Because we can always talk, we can always oppose, and we can always go to elections. But what were those things? And Michael, I want you to come back. What were some of the things that were happening that were not good, that people needed to speak against, that people were angry about, or that people were criticizing the government for, that they needed change?
Okay, so one of the things that was one of the things that people would point to, I mean, very easily was nepotism. Nepotism in the government. Toba had a whole lot of relatives in the government that didn't even need to be there. That, I mean, people can find their own justification, but I mean, there's no justification. In my book, there really is no justification. The second thing was that a lot of people in Liberia felt like they had been left behind. Doesn't necessarily mean that it was a specific group of people. But I think a lot of people felt they had been left behind. And so those were the things that were driving this change. Okay. And the last thing I would say is that there was a lot of politicking that was happening, and people, just how they do today, they seized upon the ignorance of the larger Liberian society and they manipulated them in that regard to make them feel that things were even beyond what it was. And at that point, people felt hopeless. And when people feel hopeless, when people are made to feel hopeless, and that is their perspective, it triggers such. This is where we are.
Thank you. Let me, uh, Dr. Amos, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, we can see you, so we wouldn't keep you. But I want to hear your side. Why you think April 12, 1980 happened, and what were some of the conditions you think that precipitated, that needed, a change, not necessarily cool, but what were some of those conditions? Uh,
Well,
But let me
first,
start with why you think 1980 happened.
first to begin with, let me say thank you for having me. But and I'm sure that at this time everyone has had an opportunity to say a bit of some of the things that happened. But I'd like to expand a little bit further than that, and that is there was certainly a discontentment between Tolbert's vision of privatizing Liberia versus the people who were against it. And who were against it, the very people that consider themselves to be true partiers, or the so-called Congo people who was in power. And let me also make sure that there is an understanding that not all Congo people were high in the Tolbert or Tubman administration.
Please explain when you say privatize Liberia. You said Thomas was trying to privatize. Just explain that before you move
Oh, what
forward.
I mean by that is that he wanted to make sure that he opened up the private sector so that people
Oh,
would have
oh,
had
oh, okay.
that people would have had some part to play in it,
Mhm.
like opening a corporation and so on and so forth. But also the fact of it is that the native people, yes, it is true that this was too slow. The process was too slow to bring them in. And whenever you try to bring people into a process, they have to be taught. They have to go through understanding of what is it that is expected of them. Similarly, that has happened here in America, where a black person never became president after 200 years. And if the white people of this nation had educated black people of this nation, black folk by now would have been further ahead than where they are today. So to bring all of these things together is that, number one, when in bringing people in, there must be a total agreement with everyone. And if those who are slow to understand by saying no, we can't bring these people in right now, they have to be weeded out. Then the second part of it, those who wanted to be so uh, 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 quick and swift to bring in people that had not fully understood the process, or have not gone to the phases of being
Mhm.
educated to certain types of things and how to rule and run a nation. These things were also problematic. It was problematic rather that if they didn't have the wherewithal to do it, they could not. So there were, on both sides, people have to understand that we all dropped the ball. There's no one is immune from what happened that caused April 12, 1980 to happen. None. I remember when Torbo was saying to Christy Nomer one time, say, the people are so mad at me, and they're talking about you leaving government. But here's the other part of the equation. The public it was the place for everybody to be employed. And if you did not have a job through government, or have a job through the private sector, which was a small portion of the economy at that time, then you have had no income to support your children. And so right now, where we are is the continuation of the same uh, 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 stuff that happened before. And we have to look
Thank
at
you.
the whole thing from a different perspective.
Th-
Thank
thank, th- thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, we are discussing April 12, 1980, 45 years later after it happened. Uh, and I know, the reason why we keep going to this is we have a country to build. We have, but we all know that Liberia is not in the right place right now. And so, as we try to find answers, we must search within ourselves and discuss these things openly. I know sometimes people hold their grounds and all that, but definitely the things that April 12 came to correct, I think that's sometimes the big question, right? April 12 came to correct a lot of things. Let me start with Mr. Numbo. The things that April 12 came to correct. How are we doing?
We are not doing a good job. Um, Even Toba did not do a good job. I remember Toba established anti-corruption bureau, and within few months, because of the corruption of that bureau, Liberian people started calling it corruption bureau. And the April 12th, Tower was overthrown for what? Rampant corruption. The whole time, the corruption of resurface. Charles Taylor time, corruption resurface. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf time, corruption won the battle. Weir time, corruption was the chief, and corruption is still going on. But April 12 could not be avoided, as I said
What?
earlier, because of the suppression from the past. I read about, and it's good, those came from the Southeast, because most of that suppression took place in the Southeast. Crew and Grable chiefs executed. Grable books at Connington, Epiphany Hall, burned. Episcopal Church being punished for educating Grable and Crew children by the Liberian government.
Really?
Yes.
And Dr. Yeah,
That is why
I give you.
Connington was closed. They said there was no land. In Maryland those days, no land in Connington or in Harper for Connington. And they closed it down. Tuckman time, the Episcopal bishop had to get permission from Tuckman to reopen it in Banga.
Thank you. But Dr. Numo, and I call you Dr.
Yes.
That's an honorary title. Dr. Numo,
Yes.
you said it couldn't be avoided. Was it the only way? Was war or the killing? Was it the only way, or what were there other options?
Well, it was a time bomb that could explode anytime. And the so-called progressives, I mean, today we blame them. Blame the Tipoter, the Bacchus, Matthews, this and that, But these are the people who open our eyes. So we the indigenous people blaming those people mean that we wanted for our eyes to be perpetually closed.
Thank you. But
Yes.
my question was, I try to get that. If somebody said it was inevitable,
Yes.
so it only had to be the killing of Tubert for this to happen. That's what you're saying. We couldn't have election, or we couldn't protest, we couldn't do other means.
In my first statement, I said Tubert was killed not because of his crime, but because of the crime committed by his group.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I want to go to the progressive Mr. J. Victor Nabe. Mr. Victor Nabe, was there any other way besides the killing of Tubert that we could? Because I'm hearing from you that it was inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was another way. The way we were doing it. I mean, and I keep emphasizing here. Everywhere we want to be careful here. I don't want us to commingle the progressive movement with what happened in 1980. These are two separate things.
Right.
But yes, there was another way. The way we were doing it, by continuously agitating, educating our people, softening to the ground, and going to elections and taking the vote. We had the numbers then, and this is why we were being suppressed. What the military people did in 1980 to come and they hijacked our revolution, and they came and supplanted our effort, and they miscarried the whole event, the process. So what they did is quite different from what we were advocating for. And yes, there was another option, not a military coup. We did not support that. We were all civilians.
Thank you. And you have to tell that story, to dissociate yourself from the coup.
Absolutely. And welcome
Morris,
back, Jimmy. Happy belated birthday, brother. It's good to see you back.
and let me go to Morris. According to Mr. Nube, said they open our eyes. the things the progressive are talking about, there's some say the progressive lied or the progressive misled or those people, the things the progressive, and when we say progressive, we know who we're talking about. I don't call them so-called progressive. The things the progressive was saying, were they true or false?
I think, we have to be honest with ourselves when we talk about 1980 and everything that happened before then. We've brought up some of those issues. I think, before 1980, only 5% of the population that sort of controlled the entire economy. So political participation was very minimum for the 90% of the people. But also, so the economics, the social and the political participation was minimum for majority of the people. Even land ownership was a problem for most of the people. So all across the country, there were anger brewing. President Tolbert at the time was attempting to address some of those issues. But just like Elvis said, it was a little too late for the time that he was trying to address it when people were actually in dire need of that reform. As a result, the work of the progressive was basically trying to educate and conscientize the people that were in these slum communities to make them to understand how marginalized and disenfranchised they were. Remember now, at this time, it's in the 60s and 70s when other countries also in Africa was gaining independence, and they were also, so all this pan-Africanism was flying around. President Tolbert was feeling the energy. He was actually trying to bring some of that energy to Liberia at the same time. However, as the progressive was providing these consciousness all across the country, people were actually getting aware of what rights they had and how they could they could organize themselves and protest. So Tolbert found himself right in the middle of two things: trying to manage the elite, that small 5% elite, at the same time trying to open up the country for equal political participation, land ownership, land reform, and all that stuff. It didn't work. So the progressive, I'll give them some credit. Here is where it gets tricky.
Okay.
When the military people took over, the progressive found themselves all across the entire government. So they had an opportunity to actually push some of the reform because in education, you had a progressive. In foreign affairs, you had a progressive. I mean, all across the government, you had a progressive all across the government. So yeah, there was a military government, and they actually boldly took onto military titles because they wanted to participate in the government and bring reform. However, we did not see any significant reform that they actually expressed. So even though they were advocating, but when they had the opportunity to bring the reform they wanted to bring, we didn't see much of it.
Thank you. I want to. You said there was a problem with land ownership because in Dodrican we didn't have that problem. So I want us to be very
Now,
factual here when we talk these things.
Dennis,
What was
I'm
some of
not,
the issue with?
Dennis,
Yeah, hold on.
Dennis,
What was some of the issue with land ownership in Liberia at that time?
there
Let
was
him
no
clarify.
written policy. I would address it, and I'm glad you brought this question up because it's one thing to perceive something, and it's another thing to actually say, okay, this is what the law say. There was no written law about land ownership in Liberia. Technically, the government owned all of the land in the country. When the government signed the 1929, hear me, Dennis. You don't have to. You don't have to agree, please. You don't have to agree to me. Just hear my opinion about this. When the government signed the 1929 Firestone Agreement, the people that are living in Margibi and Grand Bassa County at the time believe the same way you believe that land belongs to all of us. There's nothing here, no problem. Government signed an agreement, 1929 of Firestone, and said go to Grand Bassa, go to Margibi, and take this X amount of land and do whatever you have to do with it. The people did not have any rights. They did not have any redress. They couldn't go and say, no, 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 you're encroaching on our social, our political, our identity, whatever, our inheritance. They didn't have that right. So that reform did not happen up until 2005 before reform started happening in land ownership. Now you can say
Well,
what you want
And,
to say,
and
Dennis.
Dennis, if I will
Dennis,
have just 5 seconds.
Dennis, can I add to that?
Yes, I'd like to add something to what Brother Kurma just said.
No, oh,
Okay.
before you add, Victor asks, and then Michael, you are muted. So, and then Michael, before
Intentionally,
you, so go ahead, Victor.
Thank you, Dennis. So to add to what Morris is saying, look, most of the land was taken away from our people forcibly and through tricks. Some of the land was encroached upon. They gave the land to the settlers as friends. They invited them to come and settle, and then they will go ahead and seize the land. If you look around us, the settlers have all the prime land in the country. I mean, go to Mama Point. Who owns all the land in the Mama Point?
You say the country of Morovia because you don't
But
look at
Monrovia is the prime. Monrovia is the prime spot of Liberia. Dennis,
right.
let's be adults here.
No,
So
because this is a country, right? I don't know. I don't want us to speak about Monrovia as the country, right?
okay,
Because we didn't have land issue. I showed Mr.
I
Nobody
tell
has
you
that land
this:
issue
if you
in
went to
Yes.
Mexico.
Harper, if
Yes,
you went
I
to
have
Harper,
land.
if you went to Harper, and
Okay,
Nubo
go
here
ahead.
will tell you, if you went to Harper, they also own the best part of Harper City and Maryland County. It's all over. I'm sure it replicated throughout the whole of the country. They had
Right.
the best part of the country, and they made acquiring land so convoluted that it was impossible for my dad to own land. And yet, to vote, my dad had to own property to be able to vote. Go and figure that out.
Yeah,
Let,
that is where I want to come in. The
Yes.
voting, you
Okay,
no,
know,
That is
let, let,
correct.
let, let Padmo come in first
Land
because
issue. Well, I'll talk
because
more
of
about it when Dennis when you finish.
hold on, Morris, because even in Nimba, they say, oh, the best part of the land, the Mandingo people take it they to the front and we to the back. So that's why I'm very
Mhm.
careful when I'm discussing land issue because people say all kinds of things about land. Go ahead, Mr. Padmo.
Thank you so much. We
Dennis,
need to dispel some of these lies that's being put out here. And I don't know if people are doing it intentionally or they just don't know. Okay. The first thing is that the first look, Liberia had multi-party elections as old as 1868. There were two parties that partook. So let's stop with this thing that 1980 brought multi-party elections. That's not true. The second thing is
Nobody
that
said that, Michael.
what?
Nobody said that.
Hold
Nobody
on,
said that.
let him finish.
Nobody said that.
Can I speak? Say you didn't say it. Don't speak for everybody. I'm
mm-hmm.
making notes. Okay. The second thing is that this land ownership thing. Where is this coming from? The government never did that. You can if you say Mama Point is prime land. Why is Mama Point prime land? Because somebody went there and developed it. Have you been to Nima? Have you been to the Grand Cru Coast? Have you been to Sinor? Have you been to I mean, like, how are we saying that Mama Point is prime property? If you look back in your history, you'll see very clearly that the government allowed tribal land to be held by tribal people. That's why today, if you go Grand Gide, Grandidians own Grand Gide. If you go Lofa, Lofians own Grand Gide, not the government of Liberia. If you want to buy land in Grand Gide, you got to go to the town people and buy land from the town people, not from the government of Liberia. That was specifically written into law. And because of that, the people, the
I
indigenous
agree,
people,
Michael.
the native people, were able to keep their
No,
land.
I disagree, Dennis. You
Let's
may
stop
agree,
with this
but I
thing.
Yeah,
Right.
disagree.
yeah,
Dennis,
I
can we
know.
split
There
the
are
land thing a
several
little bit?
accounts.
Can we
There are
split
several
it so that
accounts.
we
If you
get
Dennis,
read, if you
Let
want,
me
you
Hold
can
Dennis,
on,
read.
Dennis, please,
There are
hold
several
please
accounts.
on.
If you
Allow
allow
the
read,
man
me.
to let the man learn his
No,
thought. Let the man
the
learn
man
his
finish
thought.
learning. Let me go to Jimmy.
Okay,
let me tell you, land issue has been a bit convoluted because in the African culture, nobody owns the land. The land belongs to the people. So with the coming of the settler group and establishing of Liberia, they say the government owned the land. So this was something conflicting from the very beginning. But years where they tested the ground, there was a mayoral election in 1978 where Sawyer was ready to run against
oh yeah,
this True Party
It's too hot.
candidate. I think it was
you
Horton.
too hard to.
Correct.
Yeah,
And they ended up canceling that election. The reason why the voting clause where you had to own land had not been addressed. So it would have been a clash. This was an opportunity for them to go in and change the law so that everybody could vote. Again, it shows that the ruling those are the ruling elites were slow to adapt to change, even though they felt the force of the people coming. They refused to adapt. They should have changed that law, allow everybody to vote, and people would have been confident that when Torba time was over, they will be able to elect who they wanted, but they missed that opportunity.
Dennis, can I
Thank
say
you.
something again, please? I mean, because to me, the land thing is very
Yeah, come
important.
in.
Yeah, I want us to, because I don't want us
Just 30
to,
seconds. I promise you, then it'll be just
yeah,
30 seconds.
because we have many, and I don't want us to
Dennis, this
dwell on
is
the land
George
issue
There's
too
not
Noble.
much.
many of us.
When
Yeah,
I
we have
work,
many. Go ahead,
Jenna,
Maurice, 30
just give
seconds.
me 30 seconds,
That
please.
would be the last on the
Thank you.
land
So
issue.
when I
No, I haven't spoken though.
Not on
just 30
land.
We're
seconds.
not
Not
going to
on land.
dwell on
Just
We'll move
land
30
now.
seconds.
forward.
We're here for the what
Yeah,
led up to the
not on
issue.
land issue. We'll
All
move
right,
forward.
Morris.
In
Maurice, your 30
2008,
seconds,
when
please.
yeah, yeah, when there was a land commission established in 2008, 2009, we found out that 70% of the people that owned travel certificate actually did not have original deed to the land. 70%. Most of the people that are walking around in Liberia today, Dennis, that are claiming ownership of land all across Liberia, do not have actual deed. Travel
Because
certificate
we don't
technically is
need it. We don't,
Exactly, but there was no need
we
for
don't
it.
need it.
so that's the reason why up to now we have conflict in almost all of the 15 counties in Liberia over land. All the
No,
15 counties got conflict in the counties over land.
thank you. The land discussion will
Okay.
be a totally separate one that I want us to have.
Okay.
But let's leave it there and come back to the things that because we are many. I don't want to get confused and don't call other people to say something, right? So let me go to Elvis. Elvis, the coup came to change many things. All right, that they listed, and I like when you say there were other external factors responsible. What if it is as anyway? So those things that the coup came to correct, how are we doing with those things?
All right. Thank you, Mr. John. Look, there's a saying, to whom much is given, much is expected, or much is required. And the American Liberians did a great thing by funding the country of Liberia. The idea was noble,
Mhm.
and we must appreciate them.
A bit of correction because we have the History Channel here. There's no group called American Liberians, and I
Okay.
say that because
The
before they came
the
to Liberia, they were not Americans. So why are we calling them
okay.
American Liberians?
Right. So the pioneers, as they call themselves, the
Yeah,
pioneers did a great thing, and they
Bunga people.
established
Bunga
but,
them.
but,
people.
but in context, I understand what you're saying. Go ahead.
Right. So when you have a great power, you also have to show great responsibility. And part of that is to educate the people. Part of that is to have vision, to have foresight, to understand that in any society, these are educated men, well read, very brilliant, people. And they should have known that if the majority become disenchanted with their social and economic conditions, they're going to revolt. So what do? We have to appease them. You already had the education, you already had the economic prowess. You're going to be comfortable for generations to come. Incorporate these people so that you appease them, and as such, your generation will live comfortably, even if they don't have political power. That's the key. Sometimes you have to let go of the political power and keep the economic power and keep the education that you have in your family for generations. But let me just fast forward to Samuel Doe. The war caused more harm, and I don't want to trivialize the death of Tubber and those other men, but the war caused more harm and caused more destruction to the country than the 1980 coup. Now, people will draw correlation to the coup and the war, but I'm saying that Samuel Doe did more damage governing than the removal of Tolbert. And let me say this: everybody know this. I'm a crime. Samuel Doe is my kingsman, but I think he did one of the worst things for the country as a whole. And this is why you shouldn't equate Samuel Doe with the progressive. You have people like Bob Bala, you have people like George Bullitt who were advising Samuel Doe. Samuel Doe killed Nelson Toll, his own kingsman. He killed West End, who is very close to him also on the tribal lines. This guy was not somebody who was going to give up power easily or who was going to be easily manipulated and allow the progressive to come in and really steer him in the right direction. So please, this argument that the progressive was in government as such, they had the opportunity to sway somebody like a Samuel Doe who was a tyrant. You have to be careful You have to be smarter than that to understand that they had no power over Doe.
Thank
So
you.
Samuel Doe war that the war that came subsequently in 1989 was a result of his ill actions that he took against certain people. Being a dictator, being desperate for power, and it's the same. Tyrants, they never go quietly. They will rather be violent to hold on to power, and that's what happened. I think it caused the most destruction in the country, and that's why people say, "Oh, it was the progressive." Look, the war destroyed the infrastructure of the country. Had Samuel
There
Doe had
was
a
no
peaceful regime,
infrastructure.
yeah, had Samuel Doe had a peaceful regime without war, although a lot of the pioneers or people descendant of the pioneers didn't want to work in his government because of what happened in 1980, and the quality of services was going down. But definitely, as people got more educated, we would have built it back up, and we wouldn't be where we are today. So
Th-
let's not negate the war. The war caused the most destruction, besides the coup. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Amos, my question is, coup and all these things happen all over, right? Like even here in the United States, I mean, see what happened before, with the native. I want to ask you, had those set the country, had those turned things around? Had had the coup deliver on its message, right?
No, the
What would
coup
we be
did not.
saying?
The coup did not.
Had those moved the country forward?
No,
Will we
the coup
be
did
saying
not.
the things we're saying today?
The coup did not deliver because there was no prescribed strategy as to why or what needed to be done to move forward.
But what if
This,
it had delivered?
pardon?
What if the coup had delivered?
If the coup had delivered, I think Liberia will be further ahead, and I don't think you would have had the likes of, for example, George Weah becoming president. But notwithstanding, they they persevere because they had the guns, and the nation was afraid, and most of the people that had brain and had the money fled. So it left a drainage or an impact on both the psyche of the nation and both the economy of the nation. Now let me go back a little bit and to talk about what my brother over there said about Cinco. I had to chuckle about it because if Cinco look pretty, it's not the only the Congo people that own it. The the Americans own that place too. I mean, they are the ones that occupying that place right now.
Mama
And what
point.
we fail, correct. And what we fail to realize is we constantly fight with each other because I can go to Nima and show you places over there beautiful that I would prefer being at. I can show you places in Virginia that I would prefer being at than in Morovia. So when someone goes ahead and beautify a certain place or stay there for a long period of time, we say, oh, the people want to take it over. But here is the thing: we have not been able to really grapple with the existential threat that we have in this nation. And the existential threat is that we have outside forces coming in, manipulating us, taking our resources, causing strife in the nation, and we sit down like the parliament said, and we ain't doing nothing about it.
Mhm.
So now, here's the thing, but yet and still, we're at each other's throat. And the sooner we realize that we need to move forward instead of looking backwards, Liberia will be a better nation to live in.
Thank you. Mr. Carter.
I think he spoke to my statement, and just give me 5 seconds. Let me speak to that.
Give him 5 seconds, yeah, please, and
So
I'll come
thank you,
after.
Gabe. Thank you, Gabe. So Dr. Amos, my name is on the screen too. My name is Nangwe
Why
Victor.
can't I'm trying to see it. What?
Okay, I'll give you that. So let me tell you this. There are some parts of the world that are just naturally beautiful. Have you been to Cape Mount? Have you seen that long stretch
Oh
Lake
yeah,
Kiso?
I love Cape Town too.
Exactly. So the
Yeah.
Americans came, they did not go to Fiama to buy Fiama. They bought Mamba Point because it was beautiful. The Congo people occupied it before they came. That's why they bought it. And that's what I meant.
Okay, so
Thank
you were
you.
not discriminating against the Congo people that they wanted to take the land from the native people and
Well, first
therefore
of all,
the
they own it illegally. They did not get it legally. They took it
Hmm.
from the people. They coerced the people and took it from them.
Thank you. We're going back to the land. Gabriel,
Yeah.
it's been 45 years since the coup. Should we? is it the coup now? And then when it comes even to the war, it's been so many years. Since that time, we have had government. Should we still be looking at the coup and say, oh, this person did this person did this, or is the failure of today's generation to make that change?
So I think what we don't learn from is our history, right? And I think we have a lot of people here that have a good memory or who have read a lot about what transpired, right? Whether since 1847 up to the 80s. And I read some of those too. For me, I focus more on the economic side. What we don't learn from is the history. Everyone's talking about what happened, what led up to it, right? And here's a constant in every coup that has happened in our
Money.
country. Thank you. Money, the economic mobility of each and every Liberian. Here's a constant, here's a common denominator with
Yeah,
everyone
brother,
who is,
what brought you in the discussion?
right? Here's a common denominator here. So with Tarbert, somebody said there was nepotism. Ellen, nepotism. Doe, tribalism, where he came and packed the entire government with people from his tribal lining, right? We come to Wea, corruption, blatant corruption. It's like you want to take power, you took power, but instead of say, okay, I took power, let me make this country work for everybody, you don't do it. You carry out blatant corruption. Todman, who is actually from my county, Maryland, the same thing, corruption and nepotism. Taylor ran the central bank from his house. Right? Now I say this because it goes back to the exact thing that I want to say here. There is a constant in this history that you guys are all narrating here. When you take power, when these people fight for power, they take power, they forget why they took power. They forget the common man. They forget that you need to build a country that works for every Liberian, right? And if you don't, you marginalize people. It's like a pressure cooker. It will tick, and then it blows up right in front of your face. If it if it doesn't blow up, somebody will come and blow it up for you. And this is what, like you guys are all saying, the external forces, right? If you're having problem in your home, somebody can just find a little bit of crack and come in and ignite it. That's what has happened to it. I will say this quickly and I will end, right? I will say this quickly and I will end. Look at what happened in Liberia. What has happened in Liberia so far? We had war. Rwanda had war. Burkina Faso.
Sierra Leone, Ivory
Mali,
Coast.
right? No, I said Mali. Let's stick with Mali. Let's stick with Burkina Faso and Rwanda. You know what is the constant between those two countries? They came in military style, but they were able to transform from a military rule to industrialist to build, because they understand you can't take over a country as a military and continue to rule as a military, because it's only a matter of time before somebody else rises who is more powerful than you to take over. So if you understand that, you will build a country, transition from a military rule to become an industrialist. That means you want to work, you want the country to work for everybody. If I get up, the common denominator between you and I here, we have a means to provide for ourselves, our family, and realize our dreams. That's basically what every man wants at the fundamental level, economics. But every now and then we fail to realize that, and that's what every leader has failed to do. And this is why we're constantly in the cycle. And I'll continue to say this. We are here again 22 years later. There is not a middle class in Liberia. Unintended consequences. I'll leave it to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Mohammed, we've been reading about Ibrahim Traore and even Paul Kagame and all these people, right? It's like, even though military, they take over, but because of what they are doing or what they did, people don't even remember the coup. Will it be the same with Doe? Had he turned things around? Or we are saying this because he messed up? And then Taylor came to
Mr. Ja,
correct that
I'm
he
still
messed up.
here. I'm still here, Mr. Ja.
I know. Mohammed is here too.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead, Mohammed.
Brother, go ahead. You can go ahead. You can go.
That is the same impatience we were talking about. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I mean, you're winning 2 rounds, and nobody gave.
Go ahead now. Go. Let me.
No, it's left with you and Mohammed left. You and Mohammed left.
Yeah, you and Mohammed left.
Okay, okay. Let Mohammed
Go ahead,
go.
Mohammed.
Then I
I
come back.
ask you the question.
Go ahead, Mohammed,
I'm
please.
forgetting my thought with all this.
Okay, sorry,
So,
sorry.
No,
um,
I will ask him because every time there
the
is, I mean,
military.
we are so angry
I
with,
got, I got it.
yeah.
I got it. So, though it would have been a lot better for him to be a transitional president.
Correct.
He did not have the intellectual capability, the leadership capability to run that country. He did not. He was not equipped, I should say, to lead the country. And so, when this was brought to his attention by people like Thomas Kuwangwa, who had some qualms with the longevity of the military era, you saw how he was treated. And so, had he listened to Thomas Kuwangwa and others in his inner circle at the time, it would not have been like this. I want to say lastly, because of the size of our panel tonight, one of the most honest people in the progressive era is Deacon Carlo. Deacon Carlo has said that he does not recognize what is going on now. So he's in fact regretting that some of the things that they fought for, like corruption has quadrupled, and Deacon Carlo is totally against this. People like Boima Fambula wrote against these things, and Chia Chipo also. So there's few of these people that raised their voices. The others who did not acquiesce to the barbarism, the robbery of our country. So they're not going to disentangle themselves with the excesses of the military regime or what happened. So progressives are culpable, if you will, in the excesses, the economic excesses, the political excesses of that era. So no, J. Victor, with all due respect, some of your people are not going to divorce themselves from what happened. I know Deacon Carlo has divorced himself from some of this. He's very honest, an honest man. Chair Chipper and others. So those people have, stood out in the progressive era. The rest, we can tie them to all of what's happening.
And that's what I asked you. Even though you tied them, but had things turned around to be good, like what Traore is doing, we won't be saying what we're saying, right?
Oh, they will be celebrated. They will be on a pedestal right now.
And
They will be on a pedestal.
Mr. Nubo, what have we
Yes.
learned? What have we learned from all this
Well,
as a country?
we learn a whole lot. And one point I wanted to make from the get go,
Go ahead.
we're talking about the land issue. Firestone, Firestone in Maryland. That land was given to Marcus Garvey by the Giratabo people. And the Liberian government took the land because they didn't want for Garvey to come to Liberia and give it to Firestone. That's why you have Haber, and all the way on the other end, you have Cavallo Firestone. So that land is not for Firestone. It was given to Marcus Garvey through the influence of J.J. Gossing. Okay, fast forward. Dawkins, the Chipotle, the Dr. Sawyer, the Tayo, Kuyangwa Tayo, and the rest of them. I don't believe they were talking about a military takeover, but it happens. And Doe came, and Kuyangwa came, and Melanie were in the street celebrating when Kuyangwa could took place.
Hmm.
And Ali Yancey the third saw me, how was it? I heard that you are arrested. I said, no, not yet. Say, where should I take you? I told him where to take me. But I was investigated because I was doing survey at the Corridors. They say I was doing mapping with some white man. called me at the administrative building in Harper. But when I returned to Liberia in 2004, that's the time I appreciated those started these structures for government offices to move from these you said we don't have American Liberians, we don't have Congo people, according to your history channel, but these names were given to them by them. They call the country people and they call it, I'm American Liberian, I'm Congo. They named themselves that way, not us. But Doe was building the you go to Monrovia now, the central bank, the agriculture development or agriculture bank is not completed. That's the one they call the World Trade Center, where they create all the counterfeit in the world. And the defense ministry that those started, they spend $19 million on it, and Ellen and Kofi Woods broke it down at a cost of $5 million.
So Dr.
So
Nubo,
those
Mr.
started those
Mr.
started
Nubo,
those started something
Mhm.
that the government is going to, and then the government need to go to build their own structures. Like you go to Ghana, you see, the ministerial complex. So yeah, okay, go
Dr.
ahead. I see.
Nubo. So my
Yeah.
question I want to end with is, we saw the things that you all accurately narrated that Trouble was doing bad. And so there was Doe.
Yes.
But then when the coup came, it did not deliver on its promises. With all that transpired, and many people believe the coup now gave rise to the war. In fact, Thomas, the way you said, the coup will last for 13 years, each representing one, each of the men that were killed. That was when he went to Sierra Leone. So we could see a correlation there. What have we learned from all this, Mr. Nubo? As a country, what have we learned?
Okay. Yes. The coup, one would say that, but the government, the True We Party government that
Mhm.
was overthrown, Mr. Amos, our technician or our technical people were driven out of power, so they left the country. So that's why we find ourselves in this situation. That is not true. It is the war that destroyed everything. Though government didn't destroy our electricity, they didn't take everything down and pack it and send it to West African countries. It's the war. So the
Thank you.
person that need to be blamed, the people that need to be blamed, those are the people that brought the war to Liberia. And as I said, the progressive, they were not expecting coup. Then when the coup happened, within the Doe government, they split the government between Moja and Pa.
Yeah.
Wesen, Thomas Wesen was on the Moja side. And you know what happened? And you know what happened to Tibote when he was in Ethiopia? So I rest my case.
You still didn't tell me what we learned. So we learned nothing from all these unfortunate events as a country.
Obviously, nothing.
We
We're here.
All right, let me go to Morris and then Victor. Morris, what have we learned?
I think part of the thing that we've learned, Dennis, is that we started as a country on the wrong footing. I know, I was listening to my brother Gabriel, and he was talking about how, the economics of, getting people to be economically viable, at least a middle class, that middle class. Because if you have a middle class, chances are you're not going to go into conflict. But one of the things that I think we've learned is that, one, historically, we started off on the wrong footing, and since then to where we are, we have not tried to correct it. We have
And then
attempted
how
some
we
of it.
so we didn't learn it.
We have to, yeah. So we recognize that some things went wrong.
Okay.
Whether it was 1847, it was 1980, 1985, 2003, we know that some things went wrong between those times. Between 1980, believe it, Dennis, or not, between 1980 and 2005, there was no time in that whole period where we had straight peace for 7 years. No time in that period where we had peace for straight 7 years, since 1980 to 2005, because every single time something happened to break out some. So we have not learned, we didn't learn to say, okay, something happened in the past, let's recognize this, let's fix it. When I hear people talk about Burkina Faso and talk about Rwanda and all these other countries around us, there were things that those people did deliberately to fix what happened in the past. For example, Rwanda, you can't ask someone anymore what ethnic group you belong to. It's a felony in a country, because they know ethnicity was the root cause of the conflict.
Thank
So
you.
they address that. In Liberia, we're still asking, oh,
What
what in
tribe you rep?
Kroma, native man, oh, they a Congo
We
man.
have counting me.
We
Uh,
still have issues with, yeah, we're still doing, this small little ethnicity thing. Prince Johnson died, we put a whole statue or monument, ignoring some of the things that happened with this individual. So we
thank
are
you.
becoming numb to the victims, but we promoting him as, and almost every ethnic group is doing that. So some of those
Thank-
things that are happening in our country that we have not fixed is because we have not recognized that something happened in the past and we need to correct it, we need to fix it. But coming back to Gabriel, one last thing, just 30 seconds. Gabriel, we'll talk about the whole middle class thing. It still comes back, Gabriel, to the issue of land. Land ownership is the first step to economic opportunity. If we
I
don't
agree with
fix the land thing correctly, we can't get a middle class that will be effective.
Victor, many things the progressive were championing, and it looks like the same thing happening today. What have we learned from what happened 1980?
Well, some of what Maurice is saying is quite true. The various stratification of the society, tribalism and all of that. Yes, I think it's holding us back. But I think what is even holding us back is unequal access to our resources. That was the reason why the coup happened. That was the reason why the war was fought. That is why we agitated, and unfortunately, that problem still persists. And as long as it does, I will continue to divide ourselves. Those of us who have the opportunity to preside over the national pie, we have to make sure that it filters down to everyone as much as possible. That has not happened, unfortunately. Now, um, whether the coup happened because of tribalism, I'm not sure of that. The coup happened because our American Liberian brethren or compatriots who felt dispossessed by April 12th decided they were going to come back. The war, not the coup, rather, the war. And who prosecuted the war? Charles Taylor. And so we had a coup which fell off the agitation by the progressives. And then our American Liberian compatriots who felt that we had taken their riches from them, they decided to come back and get them back. And so
Mhm.
Charles Taylor, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Tony King, the rest of them, they banded together and came back to prosecute a war and get back what they felt was rightly theirs. And this is
Yeah.
why we had this war. And here we
Oh,
are today.
and
So
let me
I believe the sooner we can put aside all of this division, tribalism, this division, native Congo, I think it will help the country. Unfortunately, that has not happened.
thank you. And you talk about the war, right? Because don't forget when you were starting, you said 5%. The one you call the American Liberian Congo. So how can 5% come now? So when the 5% came back, let's agree that what you are saying is true. When
Mhm.
they came back, who they met? They
They,
met
they met the gullible population. They had the
not
money. They
vulnerable.
had the
So they
resources.
met people across the border that were driven out, right? Mainly
Yep.
from Nimba. They
Mhm.
were driven out, and so they were willing. He said, Taylor said, I want power. And the people of Nimba say, this guy has been killing us, he chased us out. so we want his head, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the two, both of them, they wanted something, right? So it would not be just one group of people or the Congo people coming down to do a war. They got to be somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so you're
So
right
the
that
things that caused the people to come back and the thing that caused other people to accept them, the thing that caused that when Taylor spoke, everybody in the country rejoiced and said, "Power to the people." Those things are still happening. So that's why I'm saying, what did we learn? Because if things were okay, we wouldn't have been jumping. I mean, you see my man Mohammed on LU campus. He say, "There's." I remember I was going to Fender, and then this lady came in the bus and just started crying. That time, news were filtering from Nimba. People were dying, and we started crying. And in the front, you will hear, "There is no revolution without a shed of blood," and it was all militancy. So, what have we learned, Jimmy?
so let me quickly say this. What
Yeah.
we have learned is that the longer we continue to divide ourselves between the haves and the have-nots, and the few haves continue to dominate, the have-nots, we'll continue to have these agitations. Yes,
And
the
that's still
opposite.
happening.
It is still
That's
happening.
so we have not learned anything.
Not that we have not learned anything, we haven't been able to solve the problem. We've learned what it can do to us, but we haven't been able to master the craft necessary to overcome it. That doesn't mean we haven't learned anything. We have learned the lesson, but we don't have the capacity as yet to overcome this problem.
Thank you, Jimmy. What have we learned before then, Elvis?
Yeah. When I listen to the deliberation by my colleagues here, I hear one resounding theme that we fail to lift the country up and put ourselves lower than the country. And that's what was going on before, and it continues to go on today. As long as it's in your favor, as long as it's you can take advantage of the situation, you will turn the other way. We have to be a people that will stand up for Liberia, stand up for our fellow Liberians, no matter what their background is,
It is.
ethnicity. We have not learned to do that. And we see that perpetuated today. There's a song in Liberia right now that you hear. It said, "I see plenty things with my red eyeball." We continue to do the
The
same
man just want to tell you come from Morovia. How you want to say? All right, go ahead, Jimmy.
And you
That's
even know
fine.
the
He
song.
said
That's
too
all
much
right.
time in the club.
Who say,
The man got G's.
Mike and Single.
The man only remember one
I
line of the
want
That's
song.
it.
I want to sing the whole song for y'all though. My mom left me here.
Spare me the time.
That's why he the price. That's why you want everybody to know.
So
Ladies
no,
and
but
gentlemen, if you
really,
want to join the conversation, call 605-313-6004. The
That's it,
code is
right? Wow, wow.
791-403 #. Go ahead, Jimmy.
we have to lift Liberia up above, or it should be above tribalism. It should be above sectionalism, party. We have to put Liberia first, and it should be above selfish interests. Right now, the things that go on, as long as they can divide it amongst themselves, they think it's okay, and we see this perpetuate itself, and it has not changed. What will bring about that change will be some other kind of drastic action. But so long people who empower think they can manipulate the system and enriching themselves and forget about Liberia, we'll continue to see this. So the lesson has not been learned yet. We're just repeating the same mistakes.
Elvis.
All right, thank you, and good to see you back, Mr. Eastman. Look, I think what we've learned is that not reconciling is keeping our country stagnated. I would say this about the quote unquote pioneers, as you want me to call them.
No,
They have some of they have some of the most educated people. They have some of the most experienced people, and it's almost like a reverse of what we had prior to 1980. They now are feeling excluded in the country. They now feel like a pathway to political power is almost no, impossibility. We fail to reconcile our people. We fail to go through a process of saying, I'm sorry. We haven't done it. I mean, for all these years, we think we've done it. We haven't done it. It's a microcosm of what we're saying on the platform. Mr. Padmore has, a certain sentiments. Mr. Namwe, myself, and others have other sentiments. The reality is we have to go through that reconciliation and bring some of the most qualified, most educated, most experienced people back into the fold, which are the pioneers, the descendants of these people. They have a large part to play in our way forward. And we haven't reconciled with them, and we haven't told each other sorry, and we haven't told each other we have a common patrimony, which is our country, Liberia, and we haven't hugged it out and cried it out. We haven't done it. We have to do it. If we don't do it, we're not moving anywhere. So I think we have to do a national reconciliation process through this government. And I think President Boyka can initiate it. And we all from the diaspora or those in Liberia, we have to come together and say without each other, we can't move forward. And right now, the American Liberians are feeling like they're being left out. And I think we have to do that for us to move forward. Thank you.
I'm not feeling like that. But let me
Elvis,
say that.
actually, Elvis, there are several
I
marginalized
I
people
wasn't asked
in
the
Liberia.
question.
It's not just
Yeah,
the
I was
it's
left
not
out.
just the American Liberians. There are several people that are marginalized
Right.
in
And
the country.
did you answer that question yet?
It's
Morris?
No, the
people in the
5%
entire
were left
country.
out.
No,
Please.
Sorry.
hold on. Most of the time in Liberia, we hold our grounds. And this is one reason why focus on Liberia continue to be different. Because it's like in Liberia, you have to take a side. Even for politicians, if I invite people in government, they cannot come to face me, ask them questions because I'm not on their side. If I'm supporting, if you are ANC platform, all the ANC people can support. Everybody digging their heels. Today they were doing some funny thing in Monrovia where they say they're going to pay dues. And so in their thinking that our country should just be between from Boaga to Wia, from Wia to Boaga, nonsense. Everybody is holding some grounds. I started a program here called Hello Pastor. We're doing pastors, Later on, I open it up so that the Muslims will come and we talk about Islam. So that I'm even looking for my Indian friend to talk about Hindu. If we want to build a country, we got to be all inclusive, whether you like it or not. If we continue to hold on to, okay, they did this to me, before 1980, and so we're going to hold on to that, we're not going to move forward. Or you said 1980, they did this to me, and so we have to have this difficult conversation and agree as a country to move forward, right?
Yeah,
Michael.
but then what does that mean? I mean, you talk about moving forward. What does that mean? I mean, it's one thing to say move forward. Mm-hmm. But what does it mean? Yeah. Does it mean holding people accountable for our history? Go ahead.
I will come to that. I will come to that. I'm setting the stage. Then I'll come to that. I mean, there's no reason why I'm the best in this business, Michael.
Since the fall of the Mali Empire.
The only host that can toot his own horn every time.
But I see my own report card. Since the fall of the Mali Empire, you don't see anything like this.
You sound like a sedition right now. You sound like a sedition.
Michael, what have we learned from all this?
I feel like we've learned nothing. We've learned absolutely nothing, because if you look at our country, what was supposed to change has not changed. Mm-hmm. And I think that's mostly because people are still peddling the false narratives, and as long as the truth doesn't come out, people then we will remain in this cycle. I keep
What
hearing,
is your truth? What is your truth, Michael?
I keep hearing the 5%.
Michael, what is your truth?
The 5%, the progressive, give me chance. They're impatient.
What is your truth?
What is your impatience I was talking about? You also get to a chance.
Truth,
now, that bro still be one of the best
Michael,
countries.
what is your
so
truth?
impatient. So
hold on,
I keep hearing the 5%. The 5%. Who is this 5%? Do you guys know on the morning of April 12th, 1980, the vice president of Liberia was a Bassa man, a native man, born in a village in rural Monserrato?
I'm sure he didn't know he was a Bassa man until after 1980.
So there we go.
He did not identify.
So
no man knew that man to be a Bassa man.
Identify? Because
James
why
E.
he
Green.
ain't corrupt with the
I mean,
bastard
Bennett,
Hold on,
people.
Bennett
This
wanna.
is the same
hold
Mr.
on,
thing
Nangwe,
hold
we're
on,
let him
talking
make his
about.
point. Mr.
hold
Nangwe,
on.
allow him to make his
This is
point.
the same thing we're talking about. Because why he wear bastard gun? He's a nationalist. He's a Liberian. He got to wear bastard gun or hire bastard people. Like how Boyka doing, putting all the local people. Then he say, oh yeah, now this man is identifying himself with the bastard people or with the native people.
Michael, let me ask you. Even at that, right? Can
Yes.
we still, because the question, the things that are happening in the country today, we know
Yes.
them, right? We know the
Yes.
things are happening. Even without, let's say 5% or 10%, even if we don't know who 5% is, or if we don't establish the truth, as you said,
Yeah.
what is, how do I want to say it? Don't we all know that you're not supposed to steal money? Don't we all
Yes.
know we're supposed to live in a clean place instead of parking the debt on Broad Street? So what should it take, let's say reconciling between 5% and 85% before we do something?
No, I didn't know. I didn't talk about reconciliation. If you notice,
Okay.
I talk about truth.
Okay, let me see. Look,
I
what
talk
Sam
about
Waller say? Sam Waller, who you can compare with me? Anyway, go ahead.
I'm talking about truth. You see, because once there is truth, then everybody will understand. Wow, okay, all of our feet are in this, so therefore we must move forward. But you see, once you find somebody to blame, then you don't feel the need to reconcile. You are a victim. You claim the
Right.
victim position. So therefore, somebody needs to come and apologize to you.
Mhm.
Dennis.
And this is what's happening. But if you understand that, no, no, no. Now, before 1980, guess what happened? Even native people are in the government. Even native people were corrupt. Even native people were marginalizing their own native people. When you
Mhm.
understand this thing and you embrace it, you're like, wow, okay, all of us in this thing. So instead of me sitting down and waiting for somebody to apologize to me, how about I reach my hand up and
Amen.
let's all move forward? This is what I'm talking about.
Right.
You see, and that's what I'm saying. When Nangbe tell me, say, oh, you know what happened? The Congo people wanted to come back in 1990, so that's why they supported the war. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is not a Congo woman. This is the truth I'm talking about.
Mhm.
She's not. Her father is Gola.
Harry Greaves, who supported now Congo.
Yes, these people are not Congo people. But
And,
it's
and
So,
easy to say it. Because when you
so
say it,
Dennis,
and you
so
become the
Dennis,
victim, and you're waiting
Mike,
for somebody.
no, no.
Mike,
No,
Let,
if
let
we
me finish
identify
because
with them,
what
it,
I want to say also is, and somebody said, it said we are. I had a friend who he said, okay, we are marginalized in Nimba. We the Mandingos are marginalized in Nimba. I said, yes, we can join you in that fight because what you are feeling as Mandingo in Nimba is the same thing the Grebels in Sino are feeling. It's the same thing the Crown in Nimba are feeling. It's the same the Pele in
Congo.
Grandbas and on and on and on. So the fight should be marginalization. It shouldn't just be so if there is corruption, it really shouldn't matter whether Congo people or country people are corrupt. So the
Thank you
issue
very
here
much.
is corruption, and that's why we should fight. I think
Thank you
that's
very
what
Dennis,
much.
man,
Michael is saying.
just
If I may
five
land before the
seconds.
progressive come in, Dennis, I embrace you very well because look, our fight should not be against each other. It should be against corruption. You know,
Exactly.
our marginalization should be economics. The rich against the poor. Right now, the rich people are corrupt people. So we should identify that. It shouldn't be, oh, you know what, we need to come against the Congo people because the Congo people. No, we need economics. Because you know what? If everybody is doing well, nobody will care what tribe you're from. Nobody will care
Amen.
what to do from. And I
Thank
will
you.
end with this.
Mhm.
Because nationalism is what will drive us
Yes.
forward. The
Dennis.
Thank you.
only president to ever deliver the State of the Nation address in a Liberian dialect was William Aratobo. The entire address he delivered it in Pele. That is nationalism. That is
Yep.
somebody embracing Liberia. Then you turn to him and say, oh no, that man marginalized Liberia. Come on, people.
The
Dennis,
only
5 seconds.
industrialist president
Dennis.
put
Five
that
Thank
seconds,
you.
out
please.
there too.
Thank you. And Michael, for you to end, you should also admit that Tobo did some wrong, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
My Kurma, did you speak to the question being asked about what we learned?
I didn't.
Yeah, I did.
I
I
didn't
did.
do it.
But I,
Oh,
you
okay.
know, I
So,
just wanted to,
Mr.
yeah.
Carter, did we learn?
Yeah.
What have we learned?
So I think I will go with the majority here that we have not learned a thing.
And
And
why?
if
Are
we
we
have,
incapable or we just not smart?
it's just not we are incapable. It's just that I don't, and this is, and you guys can keep me honest here if I'm wrong. I don't think just how all these panelists on here are very astute with who have a good understanding of the history, right? If you have a president who has a good understanding of these challenges in the country, the past, the present, and most importantly, the economic part, it will give them a good direction of how to govern. That's one.
Mm.
So I don't think since the war ended, or even after 1980, we've had a president who understands these economic challenges to that level, right?
Hmm.
There's another thing that I want to say here, and I think I've always said it here. We have not learned also because us collectively as a citizen, we fail. I think we relegate so much power to the government that we've forgotten that we have the power. The power is invested in the people, right? Why do I say that? Meaning, what policies and the way the government do things does not necessarily and doesn't always equate to what benefits the government. I mean, the citizen, right? Meaning, because I am in power as a senator, being elected is my sole focus to stay in power. So I will do things that align with that. Whether those things that I'm doing benefit the population or not, I don't care. And this is where the marginalization happens, right? But when you see that getting to that level, right, as a group, as a citizen, this is why, which leads me to my next point: voter education, voter education, voter education. Had we had these historical events, a citizen being able to channel these things through our votes, we will not have this war that we're having, right? So we do not understand. We have not learned from anything that has happened before.
Mm.
I've said it and I'll say this again, I'll land. We've had nepotism under Doe, nepotism under Ellen, tribalism under JBN right now with people from Lofa, tribalism under what's his name? Doe, right? Taylor was corruption, Weah was corruption, Ellen was nepotism. What's JBN doing right now? Tribalism. He's forgotten to rule a people.
It's
He's
JNB, not
forgotten
JB.
JNB, right? He has forgotten that he was elected to run a country for all Liberians. So this puts me to the point that I was making. We have not learned a thing that if you continue down this path, the same thing that erupted, that caused
Mm.
1980, that caused the Tubman to be
Mm-hmm.
overthrown, Doe to be overthrown, Taylor to be taken out, will continue to happen, right?
Hmm.
So I don't think we've learned a thing, right?
Thank you.
And I will leave it on that.
So,
All
thank
right.
you. So, how do we move forward? Okay, here's somebody saying, because Padma asked you that Trevor did anything wrong, this person assumed that I'm saying the other people did good more than Trevor. Sometimes the understanding is not,
It's
anyway.
not there.
Yeah, you say
May
someone
I
did
come
wrong.
in?
Is there any president who will do all right? But so how do we move forward? Because clearly what we see today, and I'm putting a show together that we'll do here is a missed opportunities. Because I think and we starting from from Doe to now, these people had things in their favor that they would have capitalized on, and they missed the opportunity, and that's why we're here. Right now, even JNB is missing huge opportunities. So as we talk about all this, how do we move forward? Because if the things that the coup came to correct did not correct the things, and you are saying we didn't learn anything or not much, how do we move forward, Mohammed? I mean, what do we do now? Is it and last night I think no Friday night was saying if we continue on this trajectory with the election, let's say we have election 2029. Right now, if you think of election 2029, you think of two persons, all bad choices, or probably the worst, right? If we have election 2029, if we have election 2035, we have election 2041. if we stay with what we are doing now, do you think anything going to change for the better? I'm afraid.
No, no, no.
So what do we do going forward, starting tonight?
Yeah. So
Give me
first,
some hope here.
Dennis, your reference about the nomenclature Americo-Liberians, this is part of our historical record, right?
Mhm.
So we're going to keep it at that till we find something else because I can't call them pioneers.
No,
Uh, the country was there when they came. There were people
you
there
can say
already.
this descendants of.
How
Anyway,
do
go
you
ahead.
how do you
Let's keep
write
it
that,
simple.
Danny? How do you write that so we can still refer to them now? Because someone said they refer to themselves that way. So they're
Yeah,
still
yeah.
Settlers.
They didn't. They
Anything wrong
didn't
with
do
these
that
settlers?
until 100 years later, right? The first group, like the robbers and all these people, they look at themselves as Africans coming back.
because
But then when they
Congos.
started having children, like the
We're,
likes of
we're,
Judgment,
we're not saying Congos, but
yeah,
everybody didn't come from the Congo
right.
Basin.
The Congos
Oh,
are, we know them.
So anyway, your question is well in place about what do we do now. One of the simplest things that can be done is look at the Constitution, the militaristic Constitution, and ditch that. Put that Constitution away. Draw up a new Constitution. This Constitution was influenced by the military regime, which gives senators 9 years, members of the House of Representatives 6 years,
Like
president
40
6
years
years,
ago, and we can't change it.
and
Who
we
are
can't
we?
change it, right? So Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration had a perfect opportunity to change this constitution. They did not. This constitution needs to go, Dennis. That's where you want to start because to me, the frequency of election is very important to hold these people accountable. Nobody's been held accountable. You elect a senator, it's like you're electing them for life. So you want to look at that. You
Thank
also
you.
fundamentally want to look at, who our leaders are, and that's our responsibility. You just said it. Now J and B, and I'm here to predict to you, Dennis, George Weah is very, very formidable in 2029. It looks
Come
like,
on.
it looks like, I'm telling you,
Don't joke.
I'm
It's
telling
true.
you,
It's true.
it looks like he's coming back. He's going to make a comeback. So this is where we are. Okay, and someone like yourself now, you've been campaigning to go to Sino County, and they're not going to pick you, I don't think, right?
No, they're
So,
going to pick me.
okay, that's
I like his optimism. It's
he's,
intoxicating. I like
he's a
it.
very
No,
optimistic.
they have no choice. They're going to pick me.
He's
But
a
but
very optimistic guy. I don't know. I don't know where
yeah,
you get this optimism from, but I don't know. I don't know. So there are very brilliant minds. Things I'm hearing tonight from people, from Elvis. Probably our youngest guy on the show. The thing that he's just said is so
I just
profound.
1 year between us.
it's, it's so profound to everyone else. So the government needs to listen to something like this, and policymakers, give her a talk about the economy ad nauseum, and these are things, the bread and butter issues, are things that nobody's listening to right now, and they should. They should
Thank
listen
you.
to these things. Little things like this to me go a long, long way. That is priceless. You don't have to pay for this. They can
Yeah.
adopt some of this.
Thank you. We have 17 minutes to close. So the way forward, Mr. Nubo, or I said Dr. Nubo for the show.
okay.
How do we move forward?
Well, the
We're
way
stuck,
forward,
Are we?
the way forward, I during the early administration, I rhetorically, ask why Ellen cannot put all her ministers on a boat and take them to Rwanda to
Mm.
learn. I mean, when you look at Burkina Faso, you will be praying for a coup d'etat in Liberia. But we do not have people in our army like Thomas Sankara, like Jared rolling.
What happened? Did he freeze?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
So,
He's here. He's here.
it froze because it implied that we
okay,
need
we
war.
fall
So that's
back to
why.
square one. And we are now learning.
Is he in Liberia? I think
Is
the
him
internet.
Monroe? Is him Harper?
What's the problem with the internet now?
Right.
We
We
can
are
hear
now
you. Go ahead.
learning. Doe made them. The same mistakes Doe made, Taylor made them. Ellie made them. Boaka, Doe or we are Boaka making those same mistakes. So no, not share, no, we have not learned anything. But we have to regroup and find out, like Mohammed said, we need to look at the Constitution because the Constitution was revised. The Constitution we have now is not the original soil Constitution. It was revised in the flavor, in a military flavor. And that's the Constitution we have now. And nobody has the guts. Ellen did not. Weir did not. And Boaka does not.
Yeah.
Because the loopholes in the Constitution, these people feel that it benefit them.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't want to do anything.
Thank you.
So we the common people, we need to come back together and bring pressure on the people and say, no, this is the way to go.
You want us to do the progressive thing again?
No, not progressive thing. I mean, I said it. I said it earlier that the progressive people did not lead us in the wrong direction, and the progressive people did not bring the coup d'etat.
It just got hijacked.
So no, we still have to go back on the drawing board and come and
Thank,
hang here, all hands on deck, and chart a new direction.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Nabi, what's the way forward?
I think the way forward. I think some of the way forward. Some of the answers lie in what Elvis indicated. I think some work needs to be done to the Constitution, and I also agree with partly with Michael. I think the truth has to be told, and we have to face our fears. But I have to admonish him. His truth is not bigger than my truth. We have to come to the table realizing our truths are equal. I should not minimize his truth, and he should not minimize my truth. I think the biggest elephant in the room is our refusal to toss away, the so-called native and country divide. I think it is hurting the country. I'm a real country native boy, but I don't believe there's any more real Congo president in Liberia anymore. My wife doesn't agree. She thinks, I've thrown away my roots. But I really believe there is really no real Congo president in Liberia anymore. All of these, the rest of what we have in Liberia, all Liberian people, we've all intermarried. We're the same people.
Exactly.
So I think we have to address that. Go ahead.
No,
Dennis.
I said the things that connect us,
Yes.
they are more than the ones that divide.
I agree with you.
And
I absolutely agree. Look, I went to Cotton. My best friends are Congo children, descendants. So we have to sit down and discuss this. We got to pull it down because why? I think the collective talent of the so-called natives and the Congo people brought to the table to bear, I think would do the country a whole lot of good. There are a lot of smart Congo people. There are a lot of smart native people. There are a lot of rich native people. A lot of rich.
and before you learn, do you really think that the people that are in the country now, let's say the 30-year-old, the 40, the 25-year-old, do you think they even know about country and conquer, or that we the old people talking?
Well, I don't think most of them know, but they don't know how much impact this divide is still having on them today. the resources, a lot of our resources are still being controlled by our American Liberian brethren. They really have a lot of our resources, the land, the houses, they have a lot in their possession that
Concessions.
they could
Yep.
bring to help the country. You know, it is unfortunate that most of our forebears came in believing that Liberia was their farm, and they took all of their riches overseas and invested and left everything there. Some of that needs to be brought home. That's one.
Thank
We need to also collectively decide how to manage our country. We have a lot of bad management of our country,
right.
and that is a major problem. Whether native or so-called Congo,
I think
that
that's
is
the
a
most
major
crucial
problem.
one. Yeah, I think that's very crucial.
So
Leadership.
yeah, so the longer we address those issues, I think we will be able to move forward. And I think there's some amount of willingness to do that. We just need that glue that will help us, maybe from our national leaders. But there is a lot of discussion going on among the rank and
Right.
file. There is a need to do that.
And you can see that from focus on that because our national leaders are
Of
not
course,
interested.
of
Because
course,
the more things are working, they will lose their grip to power because most of them are just square pegs in round holes. They're not qualified. So they
absolutely.
don't want to. So they want people to sit down and dance behind them. You don't have the Michael to defeat, or you are wasting your. They can even call waste. They say wasting. But
And that's why
they want things
You
that
need to go to
way.
Sando to help us bring it home from starting
No,
from
no, no.
Sando.
And when I become superintendent, because the first thing I want people to hear me and steal my ideas, because what I believe is after 6 years, the people of Cape Mount will go to petition me to go to Cape Mount or go to Bapolu to be their superintendent. And I'm building
Yeah.
the team already. In
Spread the
fact, I
talent,
just talked to somebody
Morris
who I want to
Morris
be the.
scratching his head.
spread the success.
Yeah,
You send
I
in
already
Murray
have a
way though.
discussion with my pick for Sando High School principal. That person has already considered. They got a PhD because that's the kind of school system I want.
Yes.
PhD to be the principal of a high school.
Yes.
Elvis, how do we move forward?
Yes. That's true.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jai. Look, there's one word that keeps coming to my mind. Initiator. Initiator. Who's going to initiate the reconciliation process? And who's going to initiate? I know you talk about the new progressive. Who's going to initiate in the forming organization to put pressure on these government that come into power and don't do the will of the people? We talk about it, but who's initiating? You have somebody like a Henry Costa who has kind of fell by the wayside. You have other activists, lawmakers who don't have the best character or the best language. Well, who's going to initiate, Mr. Jai? You going to initiate it, Mr. Kumam, Mr. Sharif, Mr. Nambwe, Mr. Padmore? Who's going to initiate? Because in this very country, you had the Sons of Liberty, you had the Tea Party. People came together and initiated a group with a purpose, and it went and did something great for their nation and completed the trajectory of their country. So where's our initiators? We saw Barker Matthew, we saw Oscar Jaiquea, we saw all these people who initiated certain things that transform our country today for the worse or for the for good or for bad. But we need initiators. So I'm looking places to see who can we rally around or who can rally us around them to initiate some of the change that we need to see in our country. So I think right now President Boycott should be the chief initiator. He should start taking upon himself to initiate processes for reconciliation. It's important. I keep beating on it. We all know it's a simple thing, but also people in the outside of the political class should initiate civil organization, not the churches who are shown to be corrupt, not these other activists uh, activists who have proven to be easily corrupted. We need people from the diaspora. Like you are supposed to be playing this role right now, Mr. Dambwe. You are supposed to be playing this role as an initiator who is not in the armpits of the government, an initiator who is speaking out for the people who are going on the ground quite frequently to address the government, to tell us that to advocate for the plight of the people. We need that. Without that, we're not holding this government feet to the fire. They fear people in the United States because we have resources, we have education, and we have platforms like these where we can amplify our voices and make sure that the Liberian people hear what's going on. We can be the new progressive. We can be the Barkers Matthew of this day and really use our microphone, this big platform that we have in the United States, and tell the Liberian people you're not being catered to by your government. You need to take actions, not violence, not violent coup, no bloodshed, but put the pressure on them. Make noise, let them know your discontent, and as such, you can initiate change. We need initiators. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam Waller asking for my governor experience. So my response is whether he's asking for another 42 years. If I'm looking at where the 42 years is taking us. So I don't want that 42-year experience.
Let
Okay.
him tell us his questioning experience too.
Right. His experience to ask question to the best in the business. Jimmy, how do we move forward? And let's be brief. We have
Interesting. Yeah, I'll be brief as can. I have somebody texting me and telling me Liberia needs to be absorbed into um, Ivory Coast and Guinea. And that's what they're saying the way
They
forward.
drank too much this Saturday morning.
But
I mean
you
Saturday
know,
night.
I think we still have a unique direction. But first of all, I think we have to recognize that we are different, but we want the differences. We want that diversity. So we bring our ideas together and move ahead. We shouldn't hold it against each other. The fact that one person hair is short, the other person hair is long. That's it. So, but why can't we channel our resources together and put aside all the things that keep us apart? And we'll find out a lot of it is because of our own selfish ambitions. We try to ostracize people and keep them out, and we should decry that anytime we see it. The way forward is to stand up for each one another, and even if it's my tribesmen are doing it to somebody else, I have to say no. We can't do that. We have to stand up for each other. If we cannot speak for each other, because injustice to one is injustice to all. And until we ready to speak for our brothers who wrong is happening to them, we will not be able to overcome this dilemma, this diversity thing that's holding us back. Whereas we're the same people and we have the same aspirations, we have the same culture. The difference is negligible.
very negligible. We all chop the same way. Dr. Amos,
Thank you. Let me say this going forward. On this same show about maybe 6, 8 months ago, I brought up the idea of training, and I was castigated for saying that Liberian people need to be trained. And now tonight, I'm hearing that that is one of the things we are lacking because we're not trained or we're not academically astute enough to be able to bring any type of an impact to this nation. Now, let me point out to you, even though that is the case, I understood regarding the fact of the native and the Congo people that, of course, they have raised the issue and said that Bokai does not want Congo people to come into Liberia because uh, I wonder the thing that I should turn the government back over to Congo people. To me, that is nonsensical because we need each other to work along with each other. So where I fall short or don't know, someone else can help me in that space. But in fact, if we keep it all to ourselves and say we don't need Congo people or Congo people get it, we don't need Native people. This country, as someone said to me not too long ago, but 6 weeks ago, they said Liberia will not move forward until we decide that we want to hug each other, as someone said earlier, and pray and confess to each other what we have done. Otherwise, Liberia will be in 2050 and we'll still be doing the same thing. So now let me say this.
I said about privatization before.
When you say hug each other, you mean man and man hugging, or what kind of hug? You don't have to answer. Just go ahead.
You,
Thank you.
you,
So,
you married answer is her.
so what it is this. Now, if I were able to be successful and stand in that chair, one of the first things I would do would to dissolve the House of Representatives and Senate. And let me tell you why. Because these people have not given not even one iota of patriotism to the nation. And all of the people over there want to be sure that they got money in their pocket first before they move forward. And they can't do their own jobs that they were elected to do until brown envelopes are passed around. So I would dissolve it, and I would tell them, let's go ahead and start from scratch. So that people who have the heart of the nation and have the mindset to do something better, whereas job creation is going to be established where people are not going to be depending on someone to come in to run a campaign and they say, let eat his eyeball so we can make some money here. No, these type of things will not be happening. Now, when we have come up together, we need to find out some of the things that we need to do to move forward, because Liberia is not going to move forward on the LDs. Okay, uh, every country in Liberia got about 54 different machines to make their own currency. Your currency only remains at the border, and it doesn't do anything else unless you use nowadays the yen, the dollar, or the pound, and sometimes in the French country the CDs. So we have to come together with a unitary currency.
You have 10 seconds.
Yeah, we have to come together with a unitary currency, and especially for the whole of West Africa. In fact, we can move forward from there and go to the whole of Africa, because when you do that for the whole of Africa, we will begin to see our wealth is going to blossom. But let me point these four things, five things out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we are out of time. We have to bring in one caller. So
Okay.
let me get we have someone on the line.
I haven't said nothing yet, Dennis.
I know. I'm
Yeah,
coming
no,
to you.
there's myself, you, and I think
And Michael.
Mohammed. Yeah.
But I want to get input from one of our callers. Caller, your name and where you calling from. Hello, caller, your name and where you calling from. All right, the caller gone to bed. Morris,
Caller
go
took my
ahead.
time that I was supposed to make my last ending.
No, you spoke at length. You spoke at length.
If we have time, we'll come back to you. Morris, how do we move forward?
I think part of the thing is that we have to acknowledge that some of the lapses that we're experiencing with governance today is what was inherited from the past. So because we didn't govern properly way back, everybody built on that to where we are today. And what make it worse is that the ones that are governing today, like most people have already said, the capacity is not there, and all they're doing is just enriching themselves. We have a bunch of millionaires today in our governance structure who made money just by being in government. Nothing else. They in government, they made money. The other part that I also want us to recognize is that Liberia's problem is the citizens, their own self. The citizens themselves are the problems. I'll give you some example. In 2010, there was a referendum to reduce the term limit of senators from 9 years to 6 years.
Right.
And that referendum did not pass.
Right.
It failed. There was also another referendum to I forgot what it was, something else. We are in president, we are time. Another referendum that we are also put up.
That was
To
to
lower the
reduce the
presidential term also.
Bring the work thing
And
to.
then Mr. Bwaka, Mr.
Get it.
Cummings, and all the people, they said no.
Absolutely. So you see, so the citizens themselves voted against it only because the quote unquote political leaders say we don't want we are to succeed in this.
PRC,
So
that's
themselves, became the enemy to their own self. The citizens themselves could have voted and said that thing should have been 90% in favor of, because it's a sustainable long-term process that the country itself benefits from. So part of the problem is Liberian people themselves. The way that I see for us to move forward is it has to be gradual incrementalism. So what that means is one administration take over, deliberate about what they want to do. We say we address what citizenship means for us, what the role of
But Maurice,
diaspora
they're
is.
not
We
doing it.
allow the diaspora to pull the vote. We allow them, if the diaspora will invest $1 million in regional hospitals, we give them 25 tax break, whatever that means, and then we define what education means for us. Our education system is completely broken. We need to fix that and include civics in our education that promotes sort of patriotism and what it means to be a Liberian. So it has to be a long-term approach, but it has to be in different pockets. And that,
Thank
to
you.
me, that's the way we can address some of these things.
Thank you. Let me bring out the callers now. Mr. James Now Lassa, you're live, sir. Mr. Lassa, go ahead.
The caller listening to the show, he ain't paying attention to you.
Yeah, go ahead, sir. You're live.
Hello, Dennis.
All right. Okay, let me go to Darling Warwood. Darling, you're live. Go ahead. Darling Warwood. Let me go back to James Lassa.
Yeah, Dennis.
Go ahead, James.
Go ahead.
Dennis, I think your line is having technical issues when you're not hearing us when we speak, although we hear you. Am I on now, Dennis? This is James Lassa. Am I on?
Go ahead, James.
Dennis? I don't think you are on. Hello?
Go ahead, James. We can hear you.
He was saying that you and to me, but he's not hearing us. So he's
listening to the show. That's why he's off.
That's the reason
show
why,
off.
yeah.
He's listening to the show.
There's a delay from the show and from the phone.
Darling Warwood or James Lassa, can you hear me? Go ahead.
Dennis, are you hearing me, Dennis?
All right.
Yes.
James, yes, I'm hearing you. Well, maybe it's not a good time.
We can hear you, James.
All right.
Go ahead.
Let's go ahead, Asumana.
Is that
How do we
part of
move
the
forward? We're about
pro
to close.
system? The path forward, to be honest with you, the path forward right now is not even. I don't subscribe to the reconciliation train. I don't subscribe to this grand reconciliation meeting and ball and no. For me, the path forward is economic vitality. That's the path forward. We need to raise the economic sustainability of the people of Liberia. That's what we need to do. And of course, that will come with fighting corruption, reducing the government's expense budget, and all those good things, economic things that come through. But when the people of Liberia start to do better, all these other petty things we talk about won't matter.
Right.
It won't matter. And that's the secret to it. Everybody in Japan, not from the same group, not from the same ethnic group, not from the same tribe, but they are thriving economically, so they hold together. They don't want to mess up a good thing, and that's what we need. And until we can get that, until we can move forward economically, when we can spread the wealth amongst our people and raise them up and educate the children, provide them with health care and safety and security. All these petty things will always look so big to us because, we're struggling. So then we look around for something to blame. And it's easy to blame this and say, you are the reason why, I'm in this place. And,
Thank you, Michael.
but
Thank you.
that's,
Like my neighbor, I don't even know their name, but I don't take my trash and go put it in front of their door. We all
exactly.
go to work, right?
Yes.
We
Thank
don't
you.
have to be united, sir.
No.
We have two callers. I just want to give opportunities to
Sure.
Darling Wawu. Are you there now? Please go ahead.
Yeah, Dennis, thank you very much. what's the way forward? I think that's the most brilliant question you asked this year so far. What those of us who are here in the diaspora, who happen to be opportunity to be here, we have enormous power. We cannot distance ourselves when it comes to the Liberian body politics. So here's what I would suggest. The way forward for me is that we should rally our people for regime change. And that happened, we put in an interim government, pass a new constitution, dissolve the legislature, and in the new constitution, the legislature cannot set their own salary and benefits. And I think there's a way forward for now. There's no other way that it can change.
Thank you, darling. We almost out of time, so let's take a minute. Mali, go ahead, Mr. Dr. Mali.
Yes, thank you, sir. Great show tonight. The way forward here is simple. We have to work on the high illiteracy in Liberia. We need to work on poverty. We need to improve the educational system. In the absence of these things, we will continue to repeat the same history. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. James Nalasa.
Yeah, Dennis?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Let me say good evening to all. And Dennis, thanks for having me on. I think there was a problem with the line earlier. But look, just 2 points quickly, and let me rush it back. I've often heard of the need to amend the Constitution, but in most instances, you see that there is actually no need to amend the Constitution because with specific reference to those concerns, there is actually no need for that. Like, for example, some people are talking about we need to amend the Constitution so that we can unlawfully remove a speaker. There is nothing in the Constitution that has to do with why we have somebody who is speaker who has been removed by his colleague for his expressing the gullibility of the Liberian people.
Oh my God, we're coming back to this.
Speakers are removed when just 2, 3, 4 members go against him, and not much less talking about overwhelming majority. But that's not the issue, Dennis. I also heard my friend Victor speaking about American Liberians having drinking properties in America and things. Since I came here, I've not seen that was one of my biggest disappointments because when we were back home, the image was so big of what the presence of Liberians was like in America. I came here, I didn't see any Liberian who was wealthy and nothing of the kind. So I don't see evidence of wealth being transplanted from Liberia to America. Not at all. The 2 Liberians who are wealthier, we know communists and Dennis, we know how they got rich. Nobody bought in here. But I do agree that American Liberians have a lot of properties in Liberia, and it's for them. However, they need to pay the taxes. But the government, I believe this is a conspiracy against the Liberian people, that there is not an effective tax system, real estate, to pay for vacant land, to pay for lease properties and leaseholds and others. So that somebody leaves from Liberia for 20, 30 years, they abandon the land. Common poor people go occupy the land, and after 20 years, they come back and evict the people with nobody asking them to pay as well as them paying taxes. In America, if you own lawyer for 2, 3 years, you don't pay, you lose it. So that's
there's a remedy for that.
But not that property transplant.
Thank you.
I just thought to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's get the last one here. That's Cesar Frank. Mr. Frank, you're live.
Dennis, thank you for getting me on. Good evening to everybody, the panelists. I have been listening to what was discussed. And first, I would like to deal with the question of why the 1980 coup took place. Most of what the panelists said, they were correct, but one thing was neglected: the role of external factors in the coup. I do not believe that the coup took place because native Liberians wanted change so much that they were contemplating a coup. President Tower was more concerned about an overthrow from within the coup party, not from the natives. if they had a thought that a coup was taking place from the native, he would have protected himself. So that was the first point that was neglected. So the coup makers that emerged, they were not sophisticated enough to plan a coup in Liberia. Somebody must have some foreign power, must have
it. Yeah.
instigated the coup, use these guys to overthrow the government with the aim of bringing this unity in Liberia.
Oh, they were not
And
sophisticated to plan it, but they were sophisticated to shoot. Kill
Yes.
somebody.
Well, they didn't even shoot. The point here is that they did not even have the thought of planning a coup in Liberia.
What?
The so-called progressive that was mentioned on the platform were used by foreign forces to foment instability in Liberia. Some of them are well known to have been employed by foreign intelligence agencies. They were on the payroll of foreign intelligence agencies. We have record of that. So the notion that because of the economic hardship that came about after President Tubman died, and the fact that the native wanted liberation, so this led to the coup d'etat, I strongly disagree with such notion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And now, how the way forward? There were several egregious mistakes made in Liberia after the coup leading up to the 1985 election. One of which correctly was pointed out, the Constitution.
How about before the coup? Before the coup, was there any mistake?
Before the way forward.
There were mistakes, indeed.
Okay.
There were mistakes. But as I said, if you listen to the late President daughter in one of her testimonies, she mentioned that there were feelings that the personal life was at stake, was plenty. But again, that feeling was merely directed as against possible coup d'etat from within the ranks of the TWP, not from outside.
Thank you. Let's go to the way forward.
Yeah. So the way forward now, we need to reconstruct the entire Liberian system of governance.
Agreed.
1985, 86 Constitution didn't even have to exist. In my view, the Constitution of 86 is a fake document put up by Edward Kessley and Amos Sawyer. Actually, the 1847 Constitution should have been amended. The coup d'etat, the main significance of the coup d'etat was the overthrow of Africa's first constitution. That was the main significance. And even now, Liberians have not settled on what actually was the significance of this coup d'etat. That is why the country is afloat.
Thank you.
And we cannot grapple with anything.
Thank you.
We need to get back to the 1847 Constitution.
Do you know what's the difference between the 80s? What's the difference between the 1847 Constitution and the 1986 Constitution?
Well, key differences were the tenure of the leader. In the 1847 Constitution, it was 2 years for a president.
And how long Tubman stayed using? And how long Tubman? Hold on. How long Tubman still using that Constitution?
How long Tubman? I didn't get your question.
How long did Tubman stay in power using the 1847 Constitution?
Tubman stayed 27 years in power because of the fact that we remember dictatorship in Liberia started from 1944.
All right.
Prior to 1944, Liberia never had an issue.
Thank you.
Transition of power.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to bring in one last caller before I close. Bill Tota, please, you have 30 seconds. Thank you. Tota, go ahead. All right, gentlemen, I think the last person to give the way forward, Mr. Carter.
I'll take 30 seconds. I'll take 30 seconds. I think the way forward is to do the hard thing, which will be a hard pill to swallow, is to reconcile, right? The next thing after that is to chart an economic agenda, national economic agenda for the country, you know. And I say this because despite what you see here in America, with every president, the country has its own economic agenda. You know, its secrets of war and everything else that they channel behind closed door, regardless of which president comes to power. Liberia needs to get to that point. Regardless of which president comes to power, we need to have a national economic agenda. The next thing is to build, I keep saying this, to build a country that works for every Liberian economically, politically, socially, right? The most important thing is the rule of law. We have to have good rule of law, good governance, and most importantly, we have to have intentional leadership. We cannot continue to have these bravados that we elect as presidents with no experience. We say they have experience, but nothing to show for it since 1847. The closest we've had to an industrialist who wanted to industrialize the country was Tarbert. So we need to go back to that. Lastly, and economic mobility for every Liberian. The glue that holds us all together in this country, the reason why we're not all up in the street there protesting Trump, because we have jobs to go to, we have family to feed, we have things going for us. That's the reason why we haven't lost our mind. If you give the same thing to Liberians, they will be more focused, and all these atrocities and coups that continue to happen maybe every 10 years, 20 years, we will not have them. So that's the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. On that note, I'll say, gentlemen, thank you so much for tonight. We're going to conclude with our song that says, whether you believe April 12 was God sent or the most heinous thing ever to happen to our
I
country.
thought we were going to close, Dennis. No closing? Are we out of time? Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Michael, good night,
Maybe he
Michael.
has something to say, Dennis. Maybe he has a word to say.
Yeah, actually I do. But
Okay,
in no
okay, let's go around the room. I'm going to appeal to the radio people to
thank
give
you,
us some
Gabriel, and no thanks to you, Michael.
Yeah, let's use 30 seconds for our closing. Victor, go ahead.
Thank you very much. So quickly, I think Mike stressed the point of we had this much representation in government, all of that. But to us, the country boys, that was tokenism. You had a few little crumbs you pass them on to. That's not what we're calling representation in government. If I constitute 95% of the population, give me 95% of the opportunities. But I agree with him. We have to reconcile. My brother Lassa here, every conversation he has to find a way into DNB. I get it. But let him just go and realize just it's only because of the EJS complex now that we're not paying rent to individual whose buildings governments occupy, and that was by design. So let him go figure. But thank you very much. Great show. We need to come together. That's the only way we can build our country. Thank you very much.
And Sam Waller is saying the implementation of the TRC. Sam, who's going to do it? It's been how many years now? Michael, I think Victor said maybe the last word, then we'll close. Two of you will speak for the group.
Oh, okay. So
Better be good.
So this is what I like to say. I'll repeat on the morning. If all of this, everything that happened on April 12th, 1980, was about the natives coming to power, when you killed Tolbert, constitutionally, you had a native president. Benny D. Warner would have been a native president. He was educated. He was exposed. He had leadership qualities. Everything that we needed.
So it's not about native and Congo. So let's
No, it was not.
Right.
And that's my point. It was never about native and Congo. It was about, I want to ride that big car you ride. I want to live in a big house like you. And that's what this was about. Because that's why we refused for Benny to come back, and we put a Noko in. Because we felt we could control the Noko.
You can make coup and say somebody will come back, man. The coup plotter always take over.
Not all the time. They're not all the time. But anyway, that is the position, and that's
so
what we find
why
ourselves.
Harry Moriba did not come?
He would have been an extension of the true Whig Party, Mr. Padman.
Harry Moriba after Doe.
Say that again. Who yelling?
Why Harry Monoba
No,
not come in after Doe?
Because it's the same thing. Doe was not removed because they wanted to liberate Liberia. Doe was removed because another group of people wanted to sit in that seat and enrich themselves.
On
And
that
as
note,
long as we continue doing that and not putting the country first, guess what? We'll
thank you.
continue in this cycle. Thank you for distracting me, but that's okay. Dennis,
Thank you. On that note, we're going to close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a great night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home.